and welcome to Kankakee Podcast, where we talk about the people and places of Kankakee County. I'm Jake LaMore, and you're about to hear the fourth installment of Bill Yonka's Yarn Factory Listeners, a Kankakee storytelling event that was recorded live Tuesday, July 9th, 2024 at Flanagan's Irish Pub in downtown Kankakee. We will hear from 5 wonderful storytellers today. The first is Ryan Wynn, who tells a story about how his apartment was broken into. It was pretty hilarious. 2 is Pathfinder's very own Brian Prairie, who shares a story that's very sweet and loving, also funny, about how he and his wife Ashley met in high school. 3rd is Taylor Leddin McMaster, who is the life editor at the Daily Journal, shares a touching story about the relationship she has with her brother. 4th is Darnell Davis Jr. If you don't know him by that name, you might know him as Keep It Smooth. He tells an unlikely story about jet skiing on Lake Michigan. And our 5th and final storyteller is Angelina Gear, who works for Visit Kankakee County, and she shares some of her wild outdoor adventures with us. So if you like what you hear on this episode and you want to join us for the next event, Yarn Factory Listeners takes place the second Tuesday of every month at Flanagan's Irish Pub in the basement of the Majestic in Kankakee. It's always at 7 p.m. Admission is free, and it's a great night. It's filled with lots of laughs, heartfelt stories, and lots of listening. So thank you to Bill Yonka, the Kankakee Public Library, and the Daily Journal for letting us collaborate with them on this monthly event. And before we start, just so you know, some of the stories in this episode do contain adult content. Nothing too obscene, but still, it is some of it is intended for some mature audiences. So just be aware of that before you continue to listen. Without further ado, let's crank out some yarn.
Who's it their first time being here for this? Oh, wonderful. Oh, that's great. Glad you came. It's so much fun. Every time we have new people and we have storytellers that return and are part of the audience. And the event has a goofy name, Yarn Factory Listeners. And because we really do put the focus on the listening and the being still in the moment and being attentive to what's happening up here at this microphone. So while we say still in the moment, you can react, have fun, and enjoy the evening. Something special that Flanagan's has done tonight. This is unusual. Underneath your chair, you will find one of 2 things. You'll either find like some old gum. I'm sure somebody's going to put their hand on old gum. You can have that. That's yours. Or underneath 2 of the chairs, there's yarn. There's like a ball of yarn, right? Is it a whole ball? Mm-hmm. If you've got yarn, it's an awkward thing to look for when all the chairs are pushed together. She's got it. She's got it over there. No, that's not. You brought your own yarn. Oh, that's cheating. Oh, you got yarn. It's a picture of yarn. Okay, 2 pictures of yarn. Very good. At the intermission portion tonight, those are good for a free beverage up at the bar of your choice. So, congratulations, our winners. We like to say there are no winners in this. We don't give scores. We don't judge. But actually, today we got winners. So, congratulations. Our first storyteller tonight is someone I met several years ago. And I had to think, is this person real? He really is an amazing combination of things. He is a IT wizard. He's an amazing father. He's a handyman around his house and other properties. And he's a good neighbor to my stepmother. Great neighbor. And one of these rare things when, he makes music. And one of these rare things where you eventually in life, you realize maybe my athletic days are behind me. When you realize that, like, I'm not going to get better at a sport. And after the age of 30, Ray Wynn has gotten so much better at basketball. It's an incredible story. I love this about this person that he said, you know what? I'm a little older, but I'm passionate about this, and I'm going to work on my shot. And I just think that says a lot about a person and their mentality, and something I really love about Ray Wynn. Let's welcome him to the stage to hear his story.
Wow, that was a long walk. I felt like I was on The Price is Right. So before I get started, I just want to say how much I love that an event like this is making such a bright spot in Kankakee. And I think it's amazing to see how many people have come out to support it. And, everyone give yourselves a round of applause for being here. This is amazing. So I've noticed that you can learn a lot about a person by watching the way people instinctually react to panicked situations. And my wife, Trisha, and I experienced a situation like this way back before we were even married, when I was just 21 years old and our home was invaded. So I was living in this crappy apartment about 30 miles west of Detroit in a city called Ypsilanti. Yeah, it was a stark contrast from my childhood home, and this was the first place I had ever lived at outside of home. I always grew up in a quiet rural area outside of Kankakee. This place was way different than that. But I was drawn to the area by a girl named Trisha, who was starting her freshman year at Eastern Michigan University. And I was fresh out of high school, and I was having a hell of a time getting started with my career in IT. So when a computer repair shop in Ann Arbor called to offer me a job, I said yes with no hesitation, despite the fact that I knew for sure that with how much they were paying me, it was going to be really tough to survive on my own. So Trisha and I lived together to combine incomes, and despite the fact that we did, the only place we could afford to live was the type of neighborhood where people driving through would lock their car doors. Like, even the cops knew what was up. Like, they always had one or two squad cars parked on the corner in this vacant lot down at the end of our street, just waiting for something to happen. And there was always some going down too. So on the bright side, it was never dull. So it was this multi-unit apartment complex that just was failing miserably at their attempts to seem professional. They even had a full-time maintenance guy, which I have no idea what this guy did, because like anytime something broke, that's exactly how it stayed. Broken. So, you learned a lot about your neighbors at a place like this. And our favorite neighbor was the neighbor who lived above us on the third floor. The walls were so paper thin, you could hear this lady, and it just seemed like she was constantly vacuuming. It was super annoying. But we knew she was dating a guy, even though we'd never met her, because we could hear them arguing sometimes through the floorboards. And then other times we could hear different sounds when they were making up after these arguments, if you know what I mean. So I was obviously, for many obvious reasons, wanting to find a better place to live. And I started this business where I would fix broken laptops and sell them on eBay. And I ran this sneaky little operation out of our tiny little apartment. And I had shelves of equipment and parts all over the apartment, in practically every room of the whole place. And, it was going well, but I had obvious concerns, obviously, with my location, for security. So I never told anyone I was running a business out of this place, but there were always packages coming in out of the place, and I had a lot of expensive equipment. So without asking for permission at all, I installed this extensive security system on our apartment. And I made sure it was really loud so that everyone knew we had an alarm. Like whenever we would go out and come back home and open the door, it would give off all these menacing beeps to let us know you only had a few seconds to enter your code or it was going to start blaring. And, I'm sure the neighbors hated it, but it gave us peace of mind and it was easier to sleep at night, knowing there was an armed security system. So as time went by, I started to worry a little less about security until one day, while we were asleep in bed in the dead of night, we were awakened to those menacing beeps from the security system because the front door had been opened. So I sat up like real quick in the bed and I just knew in my mind immediately what that meant. Someone had broken in to our apartment. It was pitch dark and all I could hear was the beeps from the alarm and Trisha quietly freaking out. So you may recall I said you can learn a lot about a person by the way they react in panicked situations. Well, when I reacted, instincts that I didn't even know I possessed snapped into life. And I was like a guard dog. I was like snarling and barking into the darkness like, who the hell's there? Get the out of here. I'm just losing my mind. And I jump out of the bed into the darkness and I'm looking for something that I can use as a weapon. And I find this like metal piece of shelving that I can swing like a baseball bat. So I've got this thing around my shoulder. And in my primitive state of mind, it didn't once occur to me that I was not wearing a single article of clothing. So I charge out into the darkness, ready to kill the intruder, whether it's with my makeshift weapon or just straight up from laughter. Now, in an entirely different reaction that some people could argue to be a bit more rational, the first thing Trisha did was grab the phone and call 911. So I was already gone at this point, but I can only imagine what her conversation with that 911 operator must have been like that night. Like, listen, you're going to need to send somebody over here right away. Why don't you call one of those cops that's parked down at the corner all the time? Tell them to get over here. Someone has broken into our apartment and my boyfriend just ran off to fight them like some kind of knight, and he's not even wearing any armor. So she waited in the darkness and listened, but she didn't hear any sounds from confrontation. Meanwhile, I run out of the bedroom into the darkness looking for this intruder, and I can see the light from the hallway is pouring into the apartment, and the alarm is blaring, and you can smell the scent of an unfamiliar person in the air, but whoever it was, they had run away. And thank God, it's not like I had a plan or anything. What was I going to do? So the weird thing about this whole situation is there was no sign of forced entry on our apartment. So no one took us seriously. Like the police came and they wrote in their report that tenants forgot to lock the door on their apartment. But we knew that this door was locked because we double checked it every night. We knew where we lived, So it seemed like that case was never going to be solved, and we were resigned to the fact that we were going to have to keep living in fear. But that all changed when we reported this whole thing to the apartment complex management. So as soon as we told them how weird it was that the door had been opened, but we knew it was locked, it was like a light bulb went off in their mind, and they go, I think I know what happened. Let me investigate, and I'll get back to you. So that seemed weird, but a day or two went by and they got back to me, and sure enough, they cracked the case. You remember our noisy neighbor who loved vacuuming more than her boyfriend? And remember the maintenance guy who never fixed anything? Turns out, noisy neighbor lady was dating said maintenance guy. And apparently, she never gave him a key to her apartment because he had a master key that could open any door in the entire apartment complex. And that night, after a few too many drinks, he came up to pay a little visit to his girlfriend upstairs, opened the door to our apartment, and set off the alarm. So what seemed like a robbery attempt was just a ridiculous misunderstanding. Having your apartment broken into was obviously terrifying, but looking back on the situation, all we can do is laugh. I mean, imagine that night from the perspective of this maintenance guy. You're walking into that apartment and you're thinking to yourself like, damn, this is going to be a hell of a good night. And you walk in there, and then you open the door and you're met with a blaring alarm and a naked man screaming and ready to fight for his life. So Tricia and I, we still look back on that to this day as well, just thinking about how ridiculously different our reactions were that crazy night. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ray. Hey, Brian Prairie, you want to bring these chairs to your parents? They came in and they're in the back. Brian Prairie, your parents are here, and they probably wants to just sit down. So I'm just trying to help you. They're here to support you, I would assume. The least you could do is support them. Let's have another round of applause for Ray. Thank you, Ray. Our second storyteller for this evening is Leddin McMaster. And she has done such an amazing job telling all of our stories. And a lot of times winding her own story of life here and there as well. But I think this is such a cool thing that now you get to see her tell a story in a completely different way. She's the lifestyle editor with the Daily Journal. And tonight, she's doing something brand new, telling a story for us here tonight. Let's welcome Taylor to the stage.
Well, thank you, Bill, for that introduction. And I have to agree with Ray's comments about what a cool event this is and how it brings out so many different people. And just with the shared experience of storytelling, I think that is one of the coolest things we as humans can do. And so I'm going to attempt to condense a 35-year-long story into just several minutes. And that is the story of my favorite person in the world, which is my brother, Danny. Danny will be 35 next week, and when he was a toddler, my parents noticed that he wasn't hitting the developmental milestones that other kids his age were hitting. Mainly, he wasn't speaking. When he was 2, they would find out that he has autism. And in the early 90s, this was really something of a question mark. So there was a lot for my parents to learn about what that meant and what that meant for Danny's future. And what they came to find was that it would cause more lapses in those developmental milestones to where he wouldn't be able to do things that a lot of us have been able to do, like drive a car or live on his own or get married. And this, I think, made my parents pretty sad, because all you want is for your kid to be happy, and you don't want for life to be more challenging than it already is. But the thing about Danny is, and I think my parents would now agree with me, as would my whole family, is that he's the happiest person I know. It's not on his radar that he's missing out on driving or living on his own. He is just so present in what's happening. And if there's cheese in the fridge, if there's a good movie on TV, if he has the people that he loves around him, he is so happy. And I think that is incredibly inspiring. But one of the challenges that he does face is that he never was able to talk. He's completely nonverbal. That is except for the day that he met me. Now, I can't confirm the accuracy of this part of the story because I was only 2 or 3 days old at the time. But my parents swear up and down that this is how it happened. They bring me home from the hospital as a newborn, and Danny takes one look at me and says, "Go away, baby." To this day, the only words he has ever spoken. Not the warmest welcome, but I kind of take pride in the fact that I'm the only person who's ever elicited him to speak. I mean, that's pretty cool. And I think that his opinion of me has become more favorable over the years. We're pretty tight now. I think he likes me. I don't know. But those 3 words, go away, baby, that encompasses what I love the most about Danny, and that he is just the most honest person that I know. He does not know how to be anything but himself. He is completely authentic all of the time. And that is whether he's in a quiet restaurant and feels the need to laugh at the top of his lungs, he'll do that. And if you're talking to him and he doesn't feel like interacting, he'll just walk away from you. And that's not him being rude, because he doesn't have a concept of what rude is. To him, that's just him reacting to the situation in a way that feels honest to him. And so he doesn't have, again, that concept of rudeness, of what's cool, what's awkward. He does not care what people think about him. And as someone who cares way too much about what people think about them, I find that fascinating, and I find that very refreshing. And now that I'm in my 30s, I am trying to be more like Danny. How can I be more honest and authentic and just true to myself? And while I can't necessarily get away with walking away from people if they're talking to me, I might lose my job if I did that. But I think that if I kind of look at those insecurities and face them in the way that Danny does, I'll have the courage to just say, go away, baby. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Taylor. If you're listening to this tonight and think, wait a second, something sparks with me, I could do this. We do have a sign-up sheet that's over by the Kankakee Podcast table, and you can sign up, and I'll get in touch with you, and you'll be at featured in a future Yarn Factory listeners. Speaking of that, Jake LaMore is running around taking pictures. Let's give Jake a big round of applause. One of our partners in this project. And what I love about this is that sometimes people just can't make it, or they don't live locally. They can't be here on the night of. And I didn't realize, some people don't know, Jake, that you take these stories with the permission granted of the storytellers to be part of a future Kankakee podcast. So I think it's a pretty cool thing that he incorporates these stories in that medium as well. So Kankakee Podcast is a great partner with us, as is Flanagan's. The Kankakee Public Library supports this as well, and all the support we get from our friends around downtown Kankakee. Our next storyteller, I think this is really cool, because this is somebody I've known for years now who is able to create things out of so many different mediums. Like sometimes it's like he can sculpt, he can make things out of clay. He can, it just always amazes me, the things that Brian Prairie can pull together and do. And really one of the greatest things he does is find ways to tell other people's story through video and editing and creating all the different elements that it takes to really tell a story well in that format. And it was really intriguing to me to think, well, I wonder what he would do with this format. And just a wonderful creative person who's inspired me in so many ways. Let's give a big round of applause for Brian Prairie.
Well, thank you, Bill. That was got me a little choked up, to be honest with you. You inspire me too. So this is an inspiration right here. Scary as hell to be up here, but very inspiring. I'm just going to get to it. I have to use some notes, so hope you don't mind. Let me set the scene for you. The year 1996. Wonderwall from Oasis. Ironic from Alanis Morissette. No Diggity from Blackstreet are topping the charts. ER, Seinfeld, and Suddenly Susan are the top 3 TV shows. It is around winter ball season, and I lost my place. The dance where traditionally the girl the female asks out the guy. A 17-year-old Brian is employed at Target, and he is zoning the light bulb aisle. Does everybody know what zoning is? Does anybody? Okay, that guy back there, zoning. So zoning is cleaning, bringing all the product forward, making the aisle look pretty. It is horribly mind-numbing work. It was so boring. So I would, hum and kind of sing to myself as I'm doing, this. So one of the songs I would just get into is like, with the lights out, it's less dangerous. Here we are now. Entertain us. I feel stupid and contagious. Here we are now. Entertain us. Na, 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 na. Yeah. I was bored. So, I'm being a little angsty while I'm doing this very mind-numbing job, but still doing what I'm told because I don't want to get in trouble. But it's still crushing my soul. So I'm doing my best at zoning these light bulbs, and around the corner comes the cute redhead I work with. She comes into the aisle and she wants to help me with my zone, help me with cleaning up this aisle. I am not a smooth operator at this point, or have I ever been in any part of my life. In middle school, grade school, high school, I was a very shy and incredibly socially awkward person. I had friends that were girls, but never a girlfriend at this point. So snap back to the light bulb aisle with the cute redhead. I've been working at Target for a little while, and I've talked to the cute redhead a bunch, and we've even gone out on group, kind of functions and really hit it off. I'm really vibing with this person. And to be honest with you, I'm catching some feelings for her too. Also, she's checking all the boxes. She's fun to talk to, check. She's short and curvy, check. She's into music, check. She's got brown eyes and red hair, swoon. But as I can say, I am not a smooth operator with the ladies, especially picking up on any of the singles that they're sending me. So cute redhead is helping me in the light bulb aisle. And we're usually chatting about, what music we're into, what CD we just bought at the moment, and what we're maybe going to do for the summer after we graduate. But at this moment, she felt distant, and she was quiet and distracted. And she awkwardly says, "Hey." I say, "Hey," back. And, she just is fidgeting with the light bulb boxes. She starts telling me my school is having a winter ball dance in a few weeks. I say, "Cool." She said, "I think it'd be a lot of fun. All my friends are going." I say, "Oh yeah, your friends are great." This goes on for a bit, very awkwardly. And finally, my brain's snaps to attention. "Oh, dang. Hey, dude, she's into you. She's asking you out. Be cool." So I'm attempting to be cool with cute redhead. She's humming and hawing about trying to ask me out. And so trying to fathom this unfathomable thing to me, I ask her, what are you trying to say? What are you trying to ask me? Because of two things. Again, like I said, my brain was trying to confirm, is this actually happening? I cannot believe that this is actually happening. And two, to be honest, I was being a little bit of a stinker, and I wanted to hear the cute redhead say those magic words, "Will you go out to winter ball with me?" And spoiler alert, she did, and I said yes. That cute redhead is my wife, Ashley. And thank you. That moment was about 27 years ago, and we've been married for 24 of those. Thank you. Thank you very much. And as you can imagine, there are many more stories that happen over 27 years, and I'm going to share a couple more with you. A classic one is a time when we were still working at Target, and we were dating, and we were at her childhood home, and I was getting ready to leave because that evening we were going to work an overnight to reset the toy aisle to get ready for Christmas. We wanted to get some sleep before going in at 10 o'clock at night. So we say our goodbyes. I exit the house. There was a deck on the front of this childhood home, and some might say a very, very slippery deck. So I'm 1, 2, 3 steps onto this deck, and time slows down. I am looking in the sky, wondering why am I looking into the sky? I'm looking into the sky because I've slipped on the deck like a cartoon character slips on a banana peel, and I am horizontal with the deck. And I'm just sitting there like wondering what is going on. And then instantly time speeds up and I hit the deck, boom. And I'm just stunned. I don't know really what's going on. The one thing I do know what's going on is like, I've hit this deck and she has totally heard this. And so I sit there for a second and another second and no one's coming out. I was like, okay, maybe she didn't hear it. All right. Well, I brush myself off. I limp away because that's how hard I hit this deck. And I just drive, go home, wait for go home and get ready to go to work at night. So I get to work that night, and Ashley and I are working in the toy aisle, arranging some of the toys and doing all these things. And it's hours have gone by, and out of the blue, she's like, hey, I forgot to ask you. I heard a huge thud when you left my house. Did you fall? And I was like, hell yeah, I fell. I fell like a ton of bricks. No one came out to get me. And she didn't come out to get me, but she still, and then she was laughing so hard, she snorted cried the whole night and she still does. She's doing it right now if you want to see it. Every time I recall the story, she does that. Another classic moment, and it may seem trite, but our proposal. When I asked her to marry me, I had this great plan. I set up everything around a play, The Titanic. And for some reasons in the 90s and early 2000s, everything was Titanic. There was Titanic everything. So I bought these tickets, and they were really great tickets. They were center and in the pit, and I'm going to ask her to marry me after this show, and this is going to be happening. It's going to be awesome. I should have kind of known just with the history of Titanic that this probably wasn't a great idea, but we'll get there. So I gave her these tickets for Christmas, and the show wasn't until months into the future, into the spring. And so I'm ready, snap. And I had everything. I had the engagement ring too. So the proposal, there was months in the planning. So there were 2 shows on that Sunday. There was a afternoon show and there was an evening show. And knowing my partner very well, who not only loves to get to bed early, but needs to get to bed early, I chose wisely and picked the afternoon show. So we get to the day. We're going via Metro. We're going on the train. I have the ring on me. I have the plan. I'm going to do this. And uncharacteristically, she pats me down like I'm at the airport getting checked for something. She's never done this before. What is going on? So, and shockingly, she does not find the ring. But she jokingly says, are you going to propose to me today? And I'm like, and I smoothly answer in my realist fake laugh, no. I quickly change the topic and we get on the train and we go to the theater. We get to the theater and weirdly there is a line out the door and then grumpy people coming out of the theater. When we're very confused by this, and we get in and they have canceled the afternoon show. My brain is gone. I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm just telling myself, be cool, deep breaths, be cool, deep breaths. Okay. The box office person's trying to sell me tickets to the evening show. And I'm like, F your back row tickets. I paid for the Santa Row pit ones. Just give me my money back. I was angry and frustrated. I didn't know what to do. So my plan was crumbling before my eyes. So we left the theater. And we were kind of complaining the whole time, like we were really hungry. We needed to find somewhere to eat. But it was Sunday in Chicago, and there were no restaurants open at all. We were just out there like starving, and I had a plan. The plan is going to hell, and she doesn't know this. So I'm just like, okay. So we just start walking. And I like, let's leave the theater. Let's just go for a walk. We get about half a block away, and I'm like, my brain's just like, hey man, you have the ring. She's right here. Just do it. It's Chicago. It's pretty. Let's do it. So I did it. So we stopped. I told her I love her. I got on one knee and asked her to marry her. And her first word to me was, I think I'm going to throw up. And then she said yes. But then I'm still hungry. So I was like, okay, we kissed, we hugged, and agreed we needed to find some food. And this was before any kind of finding a restaurant with your phone, like that didn't exist. So the only place we could find, and that was open, was the always romantic Wendy's. We were newly engaged, eating French fries, probably some nuggets as well, and we're happy and nothing else mattered. I chose these stories because relationships are scary at first, oftentimes with many funny interludes, and rarely go to plan, but will always work out when both parties understand each other. I often say to Ashley, I didn't marry my best friend. I married my ride or die partner. I married a companion for life. We met in the light bulb aisle. The light bulb is a symbol for a good idea. I'm grateful for Ashley having the courage and a good idea to start our story together. Much love.
Thank you very much, Brian. Well done. Well done. Well, let's have a round of applause for our first three storytellers. They did a great job tonight. Thank you so much. It's always so much fun to do this because it's unexpected. You're not really sure what's going to happen. And sometimes it's a little bit of a roller coaster where it takes us. And keep in mind, there is a sign-up sheet over there if you would like to do this in the future. It's on the table where it says storytelling, you, ? Write your name and the best way to get in touch with you right there. So I don't know if you guys have experienced this. Do you ever have, when somebody has like a nickname for you, and it's just like, it feels like a personal thing. No one else calls you that, but they call you that, and it feels good. It's like a respectful thing, sort of. So our next storyteller, when he sees me, you know what he calls me? Big time. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. I'm big time. Okay, yeah. And it's really cool because he has the coolest nickname in Kankakee County. I'm not keeping track of nicknames outside of Kankakee County. I know his is the best in Kankakee County. It's also advice for when you're pouring concrete. It's advice for when you're frosting a cake. His nickname is Keep It Smooth. How cool is that? That's that. Nicknames are over. There's no need for any more. Well, I want to introduce our next storyteller, Darnell Davis Jr., a.k.a. Keep It Smooth. And he is an award-winning artist and a Kankakee native known for hosting clean events that are a combination of storytelling, or a combination of spoken word, or a combination of R&B, or a combination of music, or a combination of, you can fill us in with what else they are. But I want to welcome him to the stage. Keep It Smooth.
Oh man, appreciate you, Bill. Give it up for Bill hosting this amazing evening. It's a blessing and a privilege to be here doing something I normally don't do. Normally I'm singing or doing spoken word or rapping or something like this, but to tell a story is dope. But my story's a lengthy one, so we ain't gonna do too much. We're gonna get off into this thing. So the story starts, the setting is 2006. I'm 18 years old at the time, and life is real interesting. You know what I'm saying? I'm living in Racine, Wisconsin, which is another town like Kankakee, 20 minutes south of Milwaukee. And what we do for fun is we grab jet skis, we go out on Lake Michigan, we grab some Hennessy and some now legal recreational activities. And we get in a nice headspace before you go out here on this water, right? Now, this day in particular, we stock up. We fill up the jet skis with gas, we grab the drinks, we grab the smoke, and then we head out to the lake. But as we pull up, we can see fog rolling in as we pulling up to the docks. We ain't even got started yet. Now, anybody with common sense would say, if you see fog, we're not supposed to be on the water right now. We said we ain't spending this gas money and this money on this liquor and this weed for us to not partake. So we got one race in us. We get a mile marker out there. We're going to race to that. We're going to turn around, come back. That's going to be it. So after we've killed half of this fifth of Hennessy, after we've smoked a few, we go ahead and we get on these jet skis. Now, it's only 3 of us this time. It's me on one jet ski. It's my uncle and his girlfriend on the other jet ski. Clearly, I should be winning this race. You know what I'm saying? So we take off, and I'm in the lead by a landslide. It's not even close. But as I come around the marker, I hugged it too tight. Our siren starts going off. You know what I'm saying? I've never heard this siren because I've never hugged this thing this tight. So I kind of get spooked, and I kind of steer away from it a little bit. Uncle catches up, and he's like, dude, you ain't supposed to be that close. My bad, I didn't know. I turned back around. We were already surrounded by fog. I turned back around, and he peeped that we were surrounded by fog because now he's turned around on his jet ski making out with his girlfriend. And I'm like, dude, I'm not a voyeur. I'm not finna watch this show. So I go from looking this way, we surrounded by fog. Looking back, my bad. Look back, get nervous. Look back, I'm seeing the show. Look back, I'm finna take off. I'm not finna watch this. And I'm assuming the direction I'm facing is the direction I'm supposed to be going in. So I just pulled the throttle. I'm ripped it. This thing got to 45 miles an hour and I'm cruising, but it only took us maybe a minute and a half to get to where we were when we discovered that we were surrounded by fog. After riding for 5 minutes, you realize I'm not headed in the right direction. I'm headed somewhere I ain't supposed to be going. Now I'm riding and riding and riding, and eventually I've ridden so long that the gas light on the jet ski comes on. Still surrounded by fog. When jet skis get low like that, they set off a siren too. So in case you're stranded like that, somebody can come help you. I turn the jet ski off. Now, regardless of my hobbies at the time, I was raised in the church. So when push came to shove, my first reflex was to go just start praying. So I closed my eyes, wiped the tears out. I'm like, Father, if I don't make it home, I understand. I was stupid. I shouldn't have been out here like this. But if you see fit for me to make it home, I promise the first thing I'm doing is I'm going to crack my Bible open. I'm going to read that thing. I know I ain't did it in a while, but I'm going to crack that Bible open. I'm going to read that thing. When I opened my eyes, I couldn't see Bill to the right of me. Couldn't see these folks over here to the left. But directly in front of me, through fog, I could see a white boat. I pulled that throttle so hard, and I took off. And by the time I get close enough to the boat, the boat captain could hear the siren. So he comes to the edge of the boat, and I turned into a member of Bone Thugs and Harmony. I ain't never started talking this fast in my life. Man, if you could please just help me out now, I just need to get back to shore. Man, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't want to die on this water. When I tell you, this dude turned into Indiana Jones. He grabbed a rope, jumps off the boat, swims over to me, ties it off, pulls me back in, tows me to shore. I ride along the shore till I can get to the next docking station where I link up with my uncle, who's now roasting me for the fact that I was 10 miles south from where we started. It's like, dude, I had to get on the highway to come get you, bro. What did you do? So I'm taking that, I'm eating that, whatever. I messed up. But he also tells me it's a rumor going around that my 14-year-old kid sister is no longer a virgin. I'm the oldest brother. So now I'm like, man, I ain't trying to hear that. I don't even believe you, bro. We get back to the crib. The first thing I do is I go in the bathroom, I start changing. While I'm in there changing, hey, it's true. Now I'm in a blind rage. Her boyfriend at the time was 19 years old and was a little slow in the head, so they kind of justified it. But you can't tell me that. This is my kid's sister, and now she's been to flowers. I want blood. I want to put my hands around this dude's neck and choke the life out of him. But they wouldn't let me get my hands on him. So I'm like, all right, Unc, don't worry about it. Y'all won't let me put my hands on that boy? Go get me some more Hennessy and go get me some more smoke, and I'm finna go numb so I ain't got to think about this crap no more. But the next morning, when I woke up, I had this cough. I couldn't get two words out without me feel like I'm hacking something up and there's nothing coming up. It's a dry cough. And this cough goes on for a month. Eventually I get fed up. I'm telling my girlfriend at the time, I'm like, babe, I think I'm finna go to the hospital. I'm thinking I gotta check this out. I might have walking pneumonia or something. I don't know what's going on, but I'm nervous. There's no way this cough should have lasted this long. I've got cough drops I've tried, cough medicine I've tried. Nothing works. If I'm not asleep, I'm coughing. So I get to thinking like, well, when I get there, what they gonna ask me? What have you been eating? What were you drinking? How long has this been going on? And then I start thinking back. Like this cough started the day after I was about to choke the life out that boy. But earlier that day, we did get lost on Lake Michigan. And then I remembered my prayer. I remembered I told God the first thing I was gonna do when I walked in the house wasn't get changed, it wasn't check with the family. I was gonna grab my Bible and start reading. When I walked over to my room and grabbed my Bible, I didn't even realize before I got to the second chapter, I had already long since stopped coughing. My story, I don't know what you believe in. I'm not gonna question nobody's faith, but I know one thing if I don't know nothing else. You never, ever break a promise to God. That's my story, y'all.
Let's give Darnell a big round of applause. Well done. Acting like he doesn't normally do stuff like this. Our final storyteller of the evening is somebody who I've been inspired by because she kind of said she wasn't going to come and live back in Kankakee. And not only did she come back here and live in Kankakee, she's become an ambassador for Kankakee and spreading the word and bringing visitors here and bringing her enthusiasm to all sorts of projects with Visit Kankakee and just in the way she lives her life. So let's give a big warm welcome to Angelina Gear.
Hello. I'm just going to jump right in here. Picture this. I'm on the back of a raft floating down the Grand Canyon, and I'm just minding my own business when suddenly I see upriver another boat, and they are gaining on us like fast. So I look to my captain and I ask him, do you see what I'm seeing? And sure enough, my eyes are not deceiving me. As he gets closer and closer, we realize this isn't just a regular raft. This is a circus raft, and there is a strong man, and he's coming for me. As he gets closer, we hear him yell, "I'm coming for your dinosaur!" All right, you guys might be asking yourself, how the hell did she get here? Hey everyone, my name's Angelina. I'm really excited to be here tonight. When Bill first asked me to tell a story, I was like, sure, but what story do you want me to tell? For the folks in the audience that know me personally, you know that I have lots of stories, but I'm a situational storyteller. Someone will say something that reminds me of a story, and then bam, silly story time. So writing down a story and reciting it is very challenging. I thought about telling lots of different stories. I thought about telling the time I got chased by a moose in Idaho. That really happened. I also thought about telling this time about when my dad and I drove to Montana and we got stuck in a blizzard on the top of a mountain. I also thought about going way back into my childhood and telling the story about how when we got in a really bad car accident, my mom saved my life. My mom's actually here tonight. Thank you, Mom. I love you so much. Thanks, Mom. But I don't have enough time to tell all those stories, so I'm going to keep it to one. Well, not really. Ever since I was a child, I have been drawn to nature and the beauty of natural flowing water. I went on my very first camping trip when I was only 10 weeks old. Some of my earliest memories are fishing with my mom and dad and tipping a canoe in the middle of a lake. Just a little warning, don't bring your toddler's potty chair on a canoe. Toddlers do not know how to balance when standing in a canoe, and they will tip your canoe. You can ask my mom, it happened. From early morning fishing trips to sunset kayaking, I've always found peace and solitude on the river. I grew up on the banks of the Kankakee River right here, but I always dreamt of wild places, mountains, and adventures. After high school and some college, I found myself yearning for a bigger adventure. So I moved out west to Montana. That's what everyone does, right? I decided I was going to move to Missoula, Montana after floating down the Clark Fork River on an inner tube. After a 5-hour float trip and a few too many beers, my friends and I got out of our tubes in downtown Missoula, and we stumbled into a sandwich shop that makes their bread in a can. No, not the can, like in a can. It was weird and delicious, and no one batted an eye at us in our wetsuits carrying inner tubes down the street. I knew I would live in this beautifully weird city one day, and I did. I moved there about a year later and started a job with the Montana Conservation Corps. That river took me to beautiful places that most people will never get the chance to see, and it gave me a job with some amazing rewards. So this one time, I got jet boated upriver in an Idaho wilderness area. And whoa, what an experience. We got picked up on the Snake River in Hells Canyon, Idaho. Our mission was to build a retaining wall on a trail in the middle of the wilderness. If we had hiked there, it would have taken us about 5 days. So after being jet boated upriver 19 miles, we got dropped off with 10 days worth of food and supplies. I really find it difficult to describe the natural beauty of that untouched wilderness, but imagine, if you will, rolling hills, lush green landscapes, rock outcrops, and meadows with wildflowers as far as the eye can see. We spent the next 10 days trundling rocks and building the most epic retaining wall I've ever seen. That wilderness experience led me to rivers and more adventures. About a year later, I accepted a new job with the United States Forest Service as a trail crew leader in the Nez Perce Clearwater National Forest. This forest is in the panhandle of Idaho, if anyone's familiar. The Locksaw and Clearwater rivers run through this epic landscape, creating lush forests of moss and ferns and giant old-growth cedar groves. If you've never stood on soft moss while staring up into a never-ending sky filled with cedar and ponderosa pines, you're missing out. And I highly recommend it, like 10 out of 10 experience right there. But it was during this experience that I learned how to ride a dirt bike and crash a dirt bike and fix a dirt bike after crashing it. Seriously, good times there. After my time in Idaho, I accepted a new job in the Snowy Mountain Range in Wyoming. During my time in Wyoming, I decided to learn how to fly fish. Are there any fly fishers in the audience here? You? Well, good job, because that is hard. I spent almost $300 on an out-of-state fishing license. I practiced every single day after work. My coworker and I even spent 3 days backpacking the North Fork of the Platte River specifically to catch fish. He caught dozens. I caught none. I did catch a good buzz and a nice tan, though. Once my time in Wyoming ended, I decided to move to Colorado. I accepted a job with the Larimer County Conservation Corps located in beautiful Fort Collins, Colorado. And this is the job that changed my life. It introduced me to beautiful places and amazing people, but most importantly, it brought me to the Poudre River. This is the first river I ever went whitewater rafting on. The thrill of whitewater is an experience you never forget. The rush of going through rapids and down waterfalls, all while your raft guide is yelling commands at you. It's exhilarating, it's dangerous, but it's oh so much fun. Does anyone know how to tell if someone's a raft guide? Don't worry, they'll tell you. Anyway, whitewater rafting kind of became an obsession of mine. Any opportunity I had to get on the water, I took it. From sunrise trips before work to full moon adventures after work, I was hooked. All these adventures eventually led me back home to the Kankakee River. About 2 years ago, I was visiting my best friends in Aroma Park. They have a beautiful home on the Kankakee River. And we talked a long time about where I was off to next. And I honestly had no clue. I'd been all over the country at this point, but I always found myself coming home to Kankakee. My best friends are more like family. We laugh together, cry together, share stories of adventure, and always encourage each other to do better. During many late nights, sitting on their deck overlooking the Kankakee River, they told me stories about organizing festivals, coordinating farmers markets, boogieing down at Shoe Fest and Merchant Street, and all the other amazing things they do for this community. They were all the things that I wanted to be a part of. To be integrated into a community and have influence in your place is something I'd always yearned for, but I just never did. I was always on the move, always looking for the next big adventure. So I decided to start job hunting in my hometown right here. I mean, what's more adventurous than coming back to a community that you haven't been a part of in almost 2 decades? I only applied for one job with the Kankakee County Convention and Visitors Bureau. Honestly, I didn't even know what the hell that was. But the job description made it look really interesting. After my initial interview, I knew I had to get this job, and I did. Now I get to fangirl my hometown full time, and I feel like I can make a positive impact on my community. I get to take kayak trips down the Kankakee River. I get to take my dog on adventures through Indian caves. I enjoy a PBR or 2 on the deck at OTR. I've had the opportunity to volunteer at some amazing events and work with the best and brightest people in our community. And all these things happened because I'm a river person. But wait, weren't we talking about a strongman? Is that how we got here? So I got asked to join up with a group of river rats and raft the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon. We had 16 people and 8 oar-framed rafts. We got on the river in early November and didn't get off the canyon until after Thanksgiving. We spent 26 days going through the largest rapids in the deepest canyon in the United States. It was a lot of fun and misadventures. We like to joke by saying, this ain't no Disney cruise. So, back to the beginning of my story. I'm just minding my own business when we hear, I'm coming for your dinosaur! Again, that was me. But my crew shouted back, get your own dinosaur! And it went back and forth like this for about a mile. My captain was rowing as fast and as hard as he could, but that strongman, he kept gaining on us. He eventually reached our raft, and I thought my fate was sealed. I looked down into that ice-cold river, and I knew I was about to get yanked off my raft and onto this crazy circus boat. Luckily, my team wasn't going to let me go that easily. After some back and forth, that strongman relented, and I was set free. Or so I thought. Later in the afternoon, we stopped to set up camp, and here comes that strongman from the bushes. He picked me up over his shoulder and ran off with me. Eventually, I was set down near a campfire with some friends. We shared a bottle of whiskey and a few laughs, and he told me in good fun, rivers change and people change, but river people, we never change. Thank you. Don't forget to tip your bartender.
Thank you, Angelina. The first costume we've had. We haven't had a costume yet. That's exciting. Okay, a new bar has been set. And thank you all for being such great listeners. I hope you enjoyed it. And if something has sparked something, put your name on the list. Do this. It's a lot of it's a fun activity to just craft a story and to be thinking about how you want your story told and have people who are great listeners to hear it. So it's a wonderful community of people we're building here. And we'll see you back the second Tuesday of next month. And a big thank you to Kankakee Public Library, Kankakee Podcast. If you have friends who said, oh, you have to hear this story, make sure you share the link to the Kankakee Podcast with them, and they can experience that as well. So feel free to hang around more, tell each other stories, and thank you so much for supporting this and being attentive and sharing this experience with each other.
As the night wrapped up, a listener turned to me and said, "That was a good yarn." And I thought, what a great way to end the evening, because I couldn't agree any more to that statement. It really was a good yarn. Well, that concludes this episode of Yarn Factory Listeners here on Kankakee Podcast. I'm Jake LaMore. Thank you so much for listening, and to the storytellers for sharing their stories with us. We would love it if you could join us for the next in-person recording of Yarn Factory Listeners. That will be Tuesday, August 13th at 7 p.m. at Flanagan's Irish Pub in downtown Kankakee. It's free to attend. Also, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn at Kankakee Podcast. Shout out to Teague Dreenan for supporting the show each month through Patreon. If you want your name announced on a future episode, you can sign up at patreon.com/Kankakee Podcast. Special thanks to our sponsors, Chicago Dough Company, Noble Dairy Queen Stores, Frank's Appliance Center and Sleep Source, Pigosh Engineering, King Music, Little Me Studio, Taco John's, D. Westfall Jewelers, and Edward Jones Financial Advisor, Adam Elroy. Kankakee Podcast is proudly produced by the fine team at Pathfinder, a full-service marketing agency in downtown Kankakee. Learn more at yourpathfinder.io. Our theme song is by Lupe Carroll.